All right, John. So what are some keys for this Tennessee baseball team as they take on arguably the best pitcher in the nation and one of the best teams, no doubt?
Well, I think they just stick with what they've been doing because that's what's worked. Both teams are really different from when they met back in week 3 of the SEC schedule. Tennessee had the lead. They actually scored first against LSU and Skeens, but LSU was stronger in the middle innings. They came back each time. And while you certainly have a national player of the year, certainly SEC player of the year in Dylan Cruz in center field, it was actually second baseman Gavin Dugas who was the big difference maker because he had a home run and a double in each of the first 2 games. And as soon as Tennessee got the lead, he gave LSU the upper hand back. So I do think that there is a measure of confidence. Just do what you can. I mean, hang in there. If you can get past Skeens and into the bullpen, Tennessee, I think, has as good a chance as anybody to get a win in this opening game. Andrew Lindsey didn't have his best outing against Southern Miss in the Super Regional, but I do think it's going to be better suited in terms of the activity here. I mean, it was a very different atmosphere at Southern Miss, and it was kind of stop and start as it really was just unfortunately not his best outing, but I think he's got the perfect mindset to lead the way. So when they do get it going tomorrow, I think he'll be just fine because he has been so strong for Tennessee in opening one weekend to the next.
John, I want to talk a little legacy real quick because this is Tony Vitello's second College World Series in 3 years. He won the SEC regular season and tournament championship last year, the year they didn't make it. Given Tennessee baseball's, I guess, not great history, I mean, is Tony Vitello already the greatest coach in Tennessee baseball history?
I would hit the pause button on that. I would say for sure he's the second, and he certainly has the potential to be. He's doing things that no coach has done before, but Rod Delmonico won 699 games in 18 years. He took Tennessee to the College World Series 3 times, and he also swept the regular season and tournament championships in the same year that he did in 94. Actually won it back-to-back years in 94 and 95. So I think Tony would point to Rod Delmonico first, but here are some things that Tennessee's done that they never did with Rod, and that is, one, they've made it to the second College World Series in 3 years, as you just mentioned, Caleb, and so this is the fastest turnaround. If Camden Sewell gets into the game, he'll be the very first ball to pitch or appear in 2 different College World Series, which I think is just a really nice reflection of where the program is. You've won 3 straight regionals. You've made it to the Super Regionals 3 straight years. So there is sustained success here that unfortunately evaded Rod Delmonico. He had a 5-year run where they made it to the regionals each year. But in terms of we have only seen peaks now in terms of Tennessee baseball coach Tony Vitello. So I would still point to Rod Delmonico as number 1, but Tony Vitello certainly has an outstanding resume to be a 1A.
Yeah, doesn't Delmonico show how unpredictable the sport can be, because they had that 2005 team, right, that made the College World Series that was so young, and then they just struggled right after that with everybody back, didn't they, in 2006 and 2007? And is it me, or is college baseball the most unpredictable of the major sports?
Well, it certainly is, and all you have to do is look at this team that's in Omaha now for the Volunteers. You wouldn't have thought at 5-10 after 5 SEC series that this is where they would finish their season. It's a testament to them, as well as just looking at just putting down the building blocks as to what had to happen for Tennessee to get better. And when Tony Vitello put his best defensive lineup together, that's when everything started to click. It took pressure off of his pitchers so they could relax and just kind of realize that all they have to do is work and get the next out. They don't have to be perfect. It's not all on their shoulders. And then as that defense settled in, they got better in the box. So their offense started to click. And then you had to win on the road. This is the 5th straight week that Tennessee's been away from Knoxville, but they won at South Carolina. They did have the short stay at the SEC tournament, but they went back to South Carolina, won the Clemson Regional, and then went to Hattiesburg and took the Super Regional there against Southern Miss. So Omaha is the 5th straight week for Tennessee to be on the road. And it's the first Tennessee team that ever made it to the College World Series without a single win in the postseason in Knoxville, which is also really significant in terms of the accomplishment.
John, I know it's a smaller sample size, and you mentioned Delmonico 18 years, but it felt like Rod Delmonico would field a great team every 4 or 5 years and then maybe struggle a little bit and then field a great team. And it was just kind of up and down. Again, Vitello is smaller sample size, but it seems more consistently knocking at the door. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, I think so, because you can't help but think that in 2020 they were going to do something special. I mean, where they were leading the nation in offense at the time that everything shut down. I mean, they didn't play one SEC game, so it's fair to wonder exactly how it would have stood up. But boy, they swept the tournament at Round Rock as you beat Stanford, who's in this year's College World Series. You also beat top-ranked Texas Tech, and you beat a pretty good Houston team in between. So would have loved to have seen with Garrett Crochet, who went straight from Tennessee to the Chicago White Sox. Would have been neat to see what that team might have accomplished. But you came close to making the SEC tournament year one with a team that had won 7 conference games the year before. You make it to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 14 years in year 2, and you haven't missed it since. So I do think that what Tony Vitello, and I think a big part of it is Frank Anderson's been here every step of the way as pitching coach. Josh Elander has been the engineer of the offense and recruiting coordinator the entire time that Coach Vitello has been in Knoxville. And so you've had just incredible stability on the staff. And even though there were some hiccups this year with the team struggling and stumbling out of the gate, you just have to give this staff, as well as the players themselves, credit for working through it, because they've earned the opportunity to fix things. And while they started out as a preseason number 2, I don't think they were ready for that kind of ranking, because they replaced all 8 defensive starters. And I mean, that's beyond significant in terms of just, first of all, a new crew coming together. But they've done that. And as we talked about earlier, I think Tennessee's certainly playing its best baseball right now, and that's when you want to be.
No doubt. John, obviously Tony Vitello and his crew, they want to win it all. But what should be considered a success by Tennessee's fan base out of this trip to Omaha?
Well, you certainly want to win at least one game. You didn't do that in 2021. You got shut out by Virginia, and then you lost to Texas as the Longhorns pulled away in the second half of that ball game. So I do think this time you're going to feel pretty sorry about it if you don't get a win. But I'll also point to the fact that this was a team that at the halfway point of the SEC season, you wouldn't have thought they would have a chance to make it. I mean, some people were saying they were going to miss the NCAA tournament, let alone get the chance to go win a super regional in Hattiesburg and make it back to the College World Series. So I think with the way they have fought through what they've faced, this has been a successful season. But in terms of making it back to the College World Series with such a short turnaround, I do think that Tennessee needs to mark just to show that progress as a program as a whole.
Now you beat me to the punch. That was going to be my follow-up. To me, it's already a success. Great stuff, John. Have a fantastic call, and you're a treasure, man, to Tennessee's fan base. So love you, man. Take care. Be safe.
Dave, always appreciate it. Caleb, hope you guys have a fantastic weekend.